शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः So, we are in the middle of a refutation that's going to take some time because it is extremely nuanced. And so we are in the middle of this particular refutation. Refuting what? That perhaps Brahman, what we call Brahman, is really non-existent. You just have a bunch of adjectives. I can also bring out some adjectives. The sunless, the sunless son, the sunless mother. So the son of a sunless mother who has just taken a shower, where? In the mirage waters, and then who has adorned his hair with an intricate flower arrangement of ether flower. What kind of flower is that? It's a samasa. It's a compound word which means a flower that grows in ether, space. And then carrying on his shoulder, he is carrying a bow inlaid with the intricate decorations of a rabbit's horn. The horn of a rabbit. And so this is, this is what it is. Vandhyaputraha esho yati. So, therefore, just like this Vandhyaputraha, thus the son of a sonless mother, maybe Brahman is totally non-existent. Shunya. This is the refutation. Partly we have seen this. First thing we have kind of seen, but I think it might deserve a little bit of summation. Visheshanatve api satyadinam lakshanartha pradhanyam iti avocham. Because he makes the thing, he says basically that it is not there. Brahman must not be there, because if it was there, then we would have been able to understand this. And so it is not there, it is non-existent. That was the first contention. The second contention is that why do you need visheshanas? Why do you need adjectives? If there is only one of a kind, you don't need adjectives. Obviously, the person has not been listening. That's all. Because we have been, Adi Shankara has been drilling into the ears of this person that these are not visheshanas. Visheshanas means adjectives. They are lakshana, definitions. So the words satyam, jnanam, anantam are definitions. We are up till here with this objection, but refuted it must be. And so this is what was already said. Visheshanatve api satyadinam lakshanartha pradhanyam iti avocham. Now this is a many part refutation. So that was the first part, and I think we have covered most of it. And then the next one, is shunyehi lakshane anarthakam lakshanavachanam. So if it doesn't matter, Adi Shankara says, I don't want to squabble with you whether it's a definition or whether it's a description or whether it is whether the word Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam are adjectives. I don't want to talk about that. Not at all. What do you want to talk about then? I am more interested in looking at the implications of your refutation. Because shunyehi lakshye, if the lakshya, so we have all these pairs, we shouldn't forget lakshana and lakshya. Lakshya, that which is to be revealed, lakshana, the words that reveal. So the defining words called lakshana, and where they go and hit that target is called lakshya. So shunya hi lakshye, if the lakshya is shunya, meaning if lakshya is what Brahman, that is that is what is being unfolded by the word Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So if the lakshya, the goal, that which is to be defined is non-existent, then what are you doing here? An equally important question, what am I doing here? Why are we sitting here trying to define a non existent thing? Anarthakam, anarthakam, nirarthakam. Nirarthakam means futile would be the words of the Shastra. The words of the Shastra, which have the ability to reveal, they will reveal what? Shunya? Why would they reveal Shunya? Shunya means non existent. So how can words reveal something that is non-existent? It's not possible. And so therefore he says lakshanarthatvat manyamahe, because the Veda has lakshanartha. The Veda uses this in the form of the lakshana. Manyamahe, we are of the firm opinion. Man, to think, but here we are not thinking here. We are of the firm opinion. We are we posit, we argue that na shunyarthata iti, that there is no shunya at all. And so therefore what, this refutation is needed, because according to the Purva Pakshi, the objector, the word Brahman is just a word. It is not a pramana. It doesn't even have a meaning, according to him. It's just a word, just like any other word. It's an arbitrary word without a meaning and without a pramana. And so then he says, Brahma aprasiddham, meaning it's not known and it's just a word. But the word Brahman itself is revealing Brahman. This he doesn't know. A fact that Adi Shankara is going to point out as the next part of the refutation. So he says this Brahman is just an arbitrary word. Why are we giving, And it is not known. It cannot reveal itself. And so therefore you definitely need, you are using Visheshanas. Visheshanas means you are using all kinds of adjectives. But those adjectives are useless. Why are those adjectives useless? Those adjectives are useless because they are not adjectives distinguish things from many things. But here there is only one Brahman. So what are you doing with these adjectives? And therefore it must mean that it is Shunya. To this, we should, to this, Adi Shankara, says. What does he say? Yes, it is aprasiddham, but it is not totally aprasiddham. Aprasiddham means not well known, not famous, not understood. Yes, it is aprasiddham, but somewhat aprasiddham. It is not fully known, yes, and it is, but at the same time, don't make the mistake of saying that Brahman is unknown. It cannot be unknown because it is known as you. Because the word Brahman is used in the Shastra and in the common parlance as a paryaya vachi shabda. Paryaya means as a synonym. As a synonym to I, Atma. And so therefore it is kind of known. Asti Brahma, something is there. and it is supposed to be me, but I don't know how. That much is known. But then what is not known is that I am the cause of the, I'm equated to the cause of the universe. This is not known. And then when you, the objector, we are talking to the objector now, when you posit that Brahman is Shunya, what do you mean by Shunya? We have to ask. And what will he say? He will say Abhava. Abhava means total abhava. Abhava means non-existence. You know, like uh, like the son of a sunless mother. No such thing is there because there is a obviously an internal contradiction, and so therefore this is abhav. And now, if there were certain kinds of philosophers called what? Naiyayikas, they will say that there are many different kinds of abhava. Abhava means non existent, many different kinds of non existent. Even one non existent, we are flummoxed. Why? There is really nothing to talk about. When you talk about something is non existent, you change the topic because there's really nothing to say. If it is not existence, what is there to say about it? But if you talk to the Naiyayikas, the logicians will have four kinds of non existences. Four kinds of non existences here. So, what are they? The first kind of non existence is the non existence of the pot before it came to being. So the last minute of the pot before it was made is called in English as prior non existence. Prior to what? Prior to it becoming a pot. Before that, it wasn't there. And so that is a particular kind of non existence. Prior non existence in English, and in Sanskritam, it is called prag abhavaha. Prak means before, same thing. Prak means prior. Pragabhava. And then what? Then, as we were discussing this pot, I just dropped it and broke it. Uh-oh. Now it is what? Abhava. No, don't just say abhava. Don't just say non-existent. This is a different kind of non-existent. Oh, pray tell, what kind of non-existence it is? Pradvamsa abhav. So the first minute, the first moment, not even minute, what am I saying? The first minute of the non-existence of the pot after it is destroyed. Okay, now tell me, how is prior non-existence different from posterior non-existence? This is called pradvamsa abhava, posterior non-existence. So how is prior non-existence different from posterior non-existence? Please tell. They will say it is completely different. What are you talking about? That was before the pot. That non-existence was before the pot was born. And then this non-existence is after the pot died. Oh, all right. I mean, there's no use arguing with these people. And then what about the other two? The other two, one of them is called Anyonya Abhava. Like, for example, when clay is not available, can pot exist? No. This is what is called Anyonya Abhava. Or even tree seed, you take. If seed is not there, can tree be there? If tree is not there, can seed be there? No. So this is called Anyonya Abhava. In English, it is called mutual non-existence. So, and then finally, they come to the point, Atyanta Abhava, absolute non-existence. And, they have certain distinctions, but there is no point in going about them at all right now because that is not the point here. So the point here is to understand that when you say shunya, and then what these four types are talking about. When you say shunya, then you are really in very troubled waters Because what is Shunya? Thing that doesn't exist at all. So if one thing itself doesn't exist, what is the mutual non-existence? And then is this, what is that? Absolute non-existence, and posterior non-existent, prior non-existence. So there is no difference between this. Abhava is abhava. The object is not there. That is what it is called. And so therefore, there is, this is our contention. The Vedantin will say that there is only one kind of non-existence here. There are no different kinds of non-existence. And so therefore, because there is no such thing as total non-existence. Are you able to hear? We are in the middle of a thunderstorm. Are you able to hear? Yes? You can't
Yes.
hear?
Yes, Swami.
We can hear.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. So bring this closer. Every evening we are having a very big thunderstorm. That's that's what we are having. So so there is no difference. First of all, there is no difference in abhava. Number one. Number two, we do not believe in absolute non-existence. Atyanta abhava. Why? Because there is one person that is left out. You can never deny. You can never deny one person existence, who the one who is saying or noticing the abhava. You can never deny that. The one who is noticing the non-existence is very much existence. So any kind of non-existence that you talk about has to be relative. And you can sit and parse the non-existence into various things, but that is not going to make a difference at all. You can parse it into, absolute and mutual and before and after and all these things. That's not going to make a difference. All that we are concerned is that Brahman cannot be Shunya, non-existent, because who is the one that is saying Brahman is non-existent? Oh, me. Well, are you existent or not? Yes. And that is why Brahman is partially known. You cannot say it is unknown. And since it is partially known, then you can't, you cannot say Brahman is Shunya. So, if the abhava is known to you, then it cannot be atyanta abhava. If the non-existence is made known to you, then it cannot be a final abhava or ultimate abhava. So then that leads us to a very important connection here, and that is, how is this Brahman understood? It is kind of understood, but it is not fully understood. And here we have to bring in Shastra Pramana. Shastra as Pramana is not understood by any of these objectors. Shastra means teaching. Pramana means as a means of knowledge. The same weightage that you give your eyes and ears when you hear something, when you see something or hear something, that same weightage, that same benefit of doubt has to be given to the Shastra as well. Otherwise, it doesn't have any, otherwise we are wasting our time studying this. So, the receptivity to the Shastra here is called Shraddha, devotion, faith or trust pending understanding. It is not a blind faith, like even, when I die, I'll go to heaven, because it's not a non-verifiable faith. This is a verifiable faith. It's not a blind faith. It is subject to being understood. And until such time as it is understood, I have to keep the heart and the mind open. That is why this whole thing about Shunya, this, that, all these things, the discussion becomes very important, because most of the Purva Pakshis miss the Pramana. miss the pramanya of the Shastra, miss the status of the Shastra as being something that is making me see, that is helping me to see what I cannot on my own. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha. This is what this same Upanishad is going to go tell later, where the mind, along with the organ of speech, beats a sad retreat, not having touched Brahman and not and being unable to capture Brahman through images or words, because that's what the mind does. The mind has its own means of knowledge. You can see, you can hear, you can touch, smell, taste. These are called the 5 immediate means of knowledge, pratyaksha. And then you have anumana, inference of various kinds, one-step inference, multi-step inference. Then you have upama. You can compare it to something where, that is how a number of things become known, where a known entity is compared to something that is, where an unknown entity is understood by comparing it to something that is known. So, like, there is one, what is that? This Badrinath temple in Kashmir, in the northern Himalayas. There is one look-alike Badrinath temple, a baby Badrinath temple somewhere, I forgot. And so, for people who cannot go there, who are elderly or who just don't have the time or the energy, they go to this Chota Badrinath, means the baby Badrinath temple, and then and it's made in the same way with the same kind of prayer flags and everything. And so you can say this Badrinath is just like that Badrinath. So if you end up going, then you say, oh, it's almost the same, except this one is smaller. So we have upama. And then we don't have shunya, we have anupalabdhi. Anupalabdhi means the non-availability of a particular object at a particular place. Is there a pot in my hand? The answer, of course, is no. Why? Because you don't see the pot where it was supposed to be. The pot thought certainly arises in the head, but then what you see is an empty hand. You don't see the pot. So you say the pot is not here right now. In order to deploy this particular means of knowledge, we have to have we have to be able to answer the question, what is missing and where is it missing from? Because somewhere it is there. It is not just right here, right now. That is the idea. What is it? What is missing, and from where is it missing, and when is it missing? These are the questions we ask when we say anupalabdhi. Like tale karatale ghataha nasti. There is no pot in the palm of my hand. So therefore, now how are you going to know Brahman? This is what we have to ask the Purva Pakshi. How did you make the determination it doesn't exist? Which means of knowledge did you use to say that it doesn't exist? And whichever means of knowledge you have used, all of them are called here dushta pramana. Dushta pramana means vitiated pramanas that have nothing to do with what is being talked about. The pramana and the prameya have to have a connection. Like, for example, you cannot, prameya means that which is to be known. You cannot, for instance, smell some nice pakodas that are frying with the help of your ear and say, oh, very fragrant. You can't do that. It's just impossible. So the wrong pramana, when it is used, or it is used in the wrong way, it is called dushta pramana. Dushta pramana means a defective pramana. And why is this important? Because the pramanya of the Shastra has to be made very, very clear. Pramanya means the status of being an independent means of knowledge. Because each means of knowledge does not interfere in the job of other means of knowledges. Like, for example, the ears do not refute what the eyes have seen. If the eyes have seen a blue lily, for lack of a better example, since we have been talking about big blue fragrant lilies, if the eyes have seen a big blue lily, the ears cannot say it is neither big nor blue. Makes no sense. Each pramana is a king in its own realm, in its own area. It reigns supreme. No other pramana can either refute it, contradict it, or establish something that a particular pramana has already done. So there is an inextricable connection, a link between the pramana and the prameya to be known. Prameya, that which is to be known; pramana, the means in which it is known. So if you want to see form and color, eyes are the suitable pramana. You cannot say, I'll use my ears. And if you want to taste something, you cannot say, I will use my sense of touch. It doesn't work. And similarly, something that is not meant for arthapatti. Arthapatti means multi-level inference. Inference you need when the direct things do not work. Directly knowing something does not work, then only you need inference. So if you are able to see that there is a tiger, a few yards away from you there is a tiger, then you don't have to listen to its rustling when it walks and then infer that this might be the footsteps of a tiger. You don't need inference. It is vyartha, it is nirarthaka, it is futile. And so the point here is that this Brahman, which pramana are you going to use? Any pramana you use, you are flummoxed. It's not an object of sight. Obviously, if it's not an object of sight, it's not an object of any of the what is called pratyaksha, hearing, touch, smell, taste, etc. It's not. No, I will infer it. You can't infer it. Because the definition of Brahman is that which cannot be inferred. Really. One is not able to infer it. Why? Because inference means, it has there has to be at least, two things. Here there is only one thing. That's why it is not an object of inference. Inference means it should be existing and it should be ratified by another means of knowledge, sight, etc. That is not available. So how are you going to infer? You can't infer. And you can't compare it to anything for the same reason. There is only one Brahman. How are you going to compare it? And then you can't come to the erroneous conclusion that you have anupalabdhihi shunya. Anupalabdhi means it's not available here right now. Therefore, it must be non-existent. This is a very faulty conclusion. Why? Because since Brahman is yourself alone, if you say Brahman doesn't exist, as we have seen, it's as good as saying I don't exist. And so therefore, it's a rank form of what is called self-negation. And so therefore, this is not, therefore you cannot say it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, then you can't, if it doesn't exist, there is nothing to talk about. If it doesn't exist, if Brahman, Atma doesn't exist, then there will not be problems centered on the self. Because a non-existent I cannot have problems called samsara, cannot have sorrow, cannot have fear, cannot have doubt, self-doubt and doubts about others, cannot have difficulty. And so therefore, these pramanas are of no use. Your handheld pramanas, like handheld devices, your handheld pramanas are of no use. You have to throw them away before coming into this discussion. Why? Because it is not something, it's not the correct pramana for this. For the revelation of Brahman, an appropriate pramana has to be there. And that is why this pramana is called Shabda pramana. It happens to be in the form of words. Yeah, right. You self-appoint yourself to reveal something, and you say, you cannot know this, you need me to reveal it. I'm not saying you need me to reveal it. Shastra is saying that. Yeah, but you are the one explaining the Shastra. That is a moot point. That is not the issue at all. And the Shastra wants to make itself look good. The Upanishad wants to sell itself. That's why it is saying this. No, it is not. It doesn't want to sell itself. It has no pressure to teach you if you don't want to understand. Absolutely no pressure to teach you at all. Only if you choose it, it teaches you. And so here, that choice is the pramanya buddhi, it is called. Pramanya buddhi means a buddhi, an intellect that has finally seen the light, that I'm not going to get this through through thinking about it and through meditating upon Brahman, 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 Brahman. If you say, what will happen? Nothing will happen. And or oh no, maybe I should say soham. If you say soham, what will happen? Soham, 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 soham. You can also see, if you can also say saham, same thing. Soham, saham, soham, saham. Because this is at least when you meditate, you should take the name of Bhagavan, because with Bhagavan's grace all this will be understood and internalized. If you keep saying soham, soham, Bhagavan will go away. Okay, that this person must know, and let me go to the next head. That's what it is. So soham means I am that. And the tattvam, tattvam asi, tad aham asmi, all this. And so therefore, this, the receptivity to this teaching is an extremely important thing, which most people miss actually. The hardest thing to understand is pramana, and that is the one that is missed. Because it's not really hard. It's hard because there is the resistance. And the resistance generally is of two kinds. The first kind of resistance is because one doesn't want, one wants to be one's own boss. I don't want to be told, who I am. After all, it's about me. Who are you to come and tell me who I am? I should be able to, if there is the print, there is the internet. I should be able to Google, and I should be able to download an Upanishad. Okay, fine. I'll go so far as to say I have to read the Upanishad. Okay, I'll read it. No problem. I'll download it. I'll read it. No, but what about Shankara Bhashya? I'll read that too. Good luck, I have to say, that's all. And then I'll read that too. I will do this, I will do that. And the I here is predominant. This is what is pradhana. And because, poor thing, we cannot even fault the ego. We cannot fault the ego. Why? Because, we cannot fault the ahankara. Why can't we fault the ahankara? We can't fault the ahankara because, poor thing, it is a DIY. It is a do-it-yourself thing. Everything it has done by itself, by itself, by itself. And all the pramanas known to humanity, the ahankara itself wields. You wield the pramana. You wield your sight. You operate the pramana. You operate your vision. You operate your hearing, taste, smell, touch, everything. You operate. Actually, that's also an illusion. If you're really ready for this, there is no choice in knowing. Jnanam vastu tantram, we have seen this. Knowledge, whether it is Brahman knowledge or knowledge of a pot, it is dependent upon the object, not on the subject. If there is a pot, you will see exactly how the pot is. If you see something else other than a pot, then the mind was somewhere else. The mind is not there, or there is some problem. You are in denial. You don't want to see what there is. This is what is called samsara. So, but still there is an illusion. There is a permanent illusion. And what is that illusion? or rather it's a delusion that I am operating these 5 means of knowledge called pratyaksha. I am operating anumana, inference, multi-step, single-step inference, arthapatti, another kind of inference. I am operating, I am the comparer, I am comparing, I am the one declaring something is not there. And then so this is the orientation. So to get to the place of, okay, you know what, I can't figure this out with the means of knowledge that I have. It's like this, the master's tools cannot dismantle the master's house. A very, wonderful author said this. An African American person writing in the 70s. Meaning, the tools that are crafted, the master's tools means the tools that are of oppression, that are crafted, cannot really lead one to liberation. This was from the whole, slave era that she was talking about. So here too, it's the same kind of logic applies. And what applies here is exactly the same thing. Because those pramanas that are crafted to know the object, to know finite things in the universe, by whom? By this self-shining entity, which is completely different from anatma, all those objects that you wish to know. So, in order to know the self-shining entity, those pramanas, those means of knowledge that are useful in knowing the finite cannot be applied towards knowing the infinite. It is a mismatch at best. This has to be understood. So, therefore, what? One has to submit to a pramana, a means of knowledge that supposedly comes from outside. Meaning, it's in the form of words. Oh, my words? No, not your words. The words, Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadharana. Sa Shraddha Kathitha Sadbhihi Yaya Aksharam Adhigamyate. So these are not your words. They are words of the Upanishad. And then they are useless by themselves. They have to be understood in exactly how your teacher has understood them. And before that, his teacher, before that, her teacher, before that, his teacher, her teacher, all the way to Lord Shiva or Lord Vishnu, whichever one you want to take. Doesn't matter. Or even Brahmaji, as the Mundakopanishad tells us. So that's why this pramana has a word that is used, apaurusheya. Apaurusheya means not human handled or human made. It's not human crafted. And so it has to be elucidated and revealed exactly how one has studied it. That is how one reveals it. Exactly how the revelation was made to one reveals it that way. And so therefore, this is human made, this is not human made. The words of the Upanishad are not human made. That's why, in fact, in every religion, they say the scripture means that which is revealed, not written down, revealed. This is why. This is exactly why. Because otherwise, if some other person wrote the Upanishad, then we would be in hot water. That's what happens, sometimes with the religions that have founders. The founder dies away, and then the followers flounder after the founder is gone. Because what did he mean? What did he say? He or she, what did they say? What did they really mean? Nobody knows, because you can't go and ask them, because the founder is long gone. That this is the beauty of the Vedic tradition, is that there is no founder. There is no founder. There is just there is just knowledge. In fact, it's a knowledge without there being a human authorship. It is sages in meditations that received the knowledge because they wanted this, and they had this elusive quality, which is what is called Shraddha. And that is, Shraddha means receptivity. receptivity to the words, receptivity to to what is being said. And this is where the resistance comes. This is one of the reasons for the resistance. First is this DIY we talked about. Second one is, why should I receive somebody else's interpretation? How do I trust that? How do I trust somebody else telling me what Brahman is? After all, Brahman is myself. So in order to know myself, I have to come to you. What's wrong with this? There's something wrong with the picture. So why can't I know myself by myself? Because that by is the problem. Because that I, which is the knower, can know only of discrete objects in the universe. It is an expert in writing several PhD theses on things that have form, things that have name, things that have all kinds of shape, things that make noise, all these things that can be inferred, and all these things. It is completely at a loss when it is told to turn the vision inward. That same eyes with which you say, I spy this, I spy that, I spy that. And you try spying Brahman. No, not possible. Because here we are not talking of the pramanas which are geared to knowing the objects in the universe, but pramana that is geared to knowing the subject, I. And so therefore a new pramana is needed. Why? Because it has to shut up this knower. The one who thinks I am the pramata, I am the knower, needs to be dismantled, dethroned. As I have said many times, this is a knowledge without a knower. Therefore, in the Manisha Panchakam, Adi Shankara says this, very beautiful. He says, Brahmaiva natu Brahmavit. Brahmavit means what? Knower of Brahman. And even though we say one is Brahman, so it is the knower of the self. So knower of Brahman, even there are two things. There could be a slight duality, Dvaita, creeping up. And so therefore what? Brahmaiva, natu Brahmavit. Brahmaiva means this is Brahman alone. The person who knows this is Brahman alone. Even if you say the knower of Brahman, there is a creeping duality. There are two things, Brahman and its knower. And so that the knower is knocked off, through which knowledge, this is what we are embarking on. And this is what the objections do not understand, the objectors. And the objectors do not understand, but they are repeatedly presented so that they wear out our own objections all the while. They wear out our objections, and therefore these objections come in various avataras, and they are repeatedly posited, so that we can grow as a result of facing one's own fears and one's own difficulties. So any kind of, there are what are called authority issues. Authority issues means there are, based on childhood, all kinds of unresolved issues, authority issues, which is why the guru or anybody who is unfolding the teacher who is unfolding this knowledge becomes a sitting duck for all kinds of projections and transference, etc., because it is very difficult to receive this knowledge from someone else. But that's the only way. That's the only way to do it. No other way. And this is exactly what Adi Shankara points out, because he says there is no abhava at all. Because even the operation of this fifth pramana, anupalabdhi, it is only money, it's only that it is not there, something is not there at a particular time. So somebody coming to somebody for a donation, Pujya Swamiji would always say, I can make the richest person impoverished in a second. How? I'll ask the person for a donation. And then what will they say? Swamiji, I'm sorry, mere paas nahi hai, I don't have. So, and then for dramatic effect, I was present at one of these meetings. For dramatic effect, he was wearing a kurta pajama, this gentleman, and some big industrialist. And for dramatic effect, he put his hands in his pockets and then he turned them inside out. And to show, sab khali hai, I have nothing, I have nothing, lots of expenses, etc., etc. So that is not correct. I have no money means what? Yeah, I have money, but I don't have money right now, right here to give you. And before coming to the ashram, I made sure I would empty the pockets because I knew you may ask. You may ask. So therefore, I have done this. So like this, this is this is exactly what the problem is. And so therefore, what is this Brahman? Asti iti upalabhyate. It is asti, 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 asti alone. It is never nasti. So what shunyata, what non-existence are you talking about? Asti means is. And not only Brahman is, flower is. And that means what? The isness of the flower belongs to Brahman, not to the flower. Flower wilts. And then what? Wilted flower is. Flower petals come off. De-petaled flower is. Flower petal is. Then you, being a conscientious person, you compost. A composted flower is. Another, and that compost nourishes another flower bush. Another flower is. Is continues. The name and form change, name and form change, name and form change. They keep changing. Is continues. Is doesn't go away anywhere at all. Asti, asti, asti iti upalabhyate. And whatever nasti iti upalabhyate, whatever obtains as not there, then what? It is a particular thing in a particular form at a particular place at a particular time. It's not there. Like the gentleman's pockets did not have money, true. But what about the assets, liquid assets, solid assets, bank, and and all the movable assets and immovable assets? They were all there. So that is what the thing is. Now, so therefore, once and for all, this abhavavada is gone. This abhavavada means this whole thing about Brahman being non-existence has been completely and totally put to rest. If you say Brahman is non-existent, that means there is something wrong with you, that you are in a form of self-denial. Go get help. Okay, that's what you have to tell the person who says Brahman is non-existent, because they are saying I am non-existence. So then, Visheshanatve sati, this whole thing, Bhashyakara is going to deal with the rest of the objection, the refuting the rest of the objection from his own point of view. So then he already said that, we are not using the words Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam in the form of adjectives. We are what? Vishesha. We are not using it as Visheshana. But you keep saying they are Visheshana. We are using it as words that reveal Brahman. They are, they're revealing Brahman. And then so they are Lakshana. Why not take it as Lakshana of the non-existent Brahman? Already we have said non-existent cannot Lakshana. Why will there be Lakshana for something non-existent? It's very interesting. And so, Shunya hi Lakshye, if the target of knowing, which is Brahman, is non-existence, then this whole Shastra is anarthakyam, Shastrasya anarthakyam syat. You don't require the Shastra at all. Absolutely, you don't require the Shastra. And then therefore, we say that Brahman is very much existent. So therefore, since there is Lakshana, Brahman is very much there, and idiot, it is you. That is also somehow in parenthesis, because Manyamahe has a sarcasm there, which has its own Swarasya. Swarasya means a kind of a double entendre. We consider, we think, we posit, and so therefore this is this is what it is. And So we cannot, we don't say this. We cannot, by implication, Brahman is already there. Why? Because it has defining words. So even though it has adjectival words that are used in the form of definition, it has words that define. And so therefore what? Therefore, Brahma Asti. Brahma Asti. If you say Brahma Asti, then you don't, if you say that, then you have to understand what kind of what kind of means are you using to reveal this Brahman. This is what has to be understood, not anything else. And where did that Bhashya go? Yeah. So then how is it going to be revealing? And to that, Bhashyakara is saying, Visheshanarthatve apicha satyadi padanam, then Swartha Parityagaha eva. Swartha Parityagena lakshyate, jnayate. शून्यार्थत्वे हि सत्यादि शब्दानां विशेष नियंत्रत्व अनुपपत्तिः. This is one more important point. So these 2 points we have to look at. First is swartha aparityagah. Swartha aparityagah means the not giving up of the original meaning. Not giving up of the original meaning. That is what is called swartha aparityagah. And so, like I said, there are 3 ways of understanding or these lakshanas. The first one is called ajahat lakshana. Ajahat means not giving up. Lakshana means indicatory words, definition. So the definition, even in our everyday language, operates, we use lakshana all the time in the everyday language. All the time lakshana is used. Lakshana, everywhere it is used. Like for example, what was the stock example which we gave? The white runs. Shveto dhavati. Of course, lakshana means the context is very important. If you say Shveto Dhavati in an ashram, that means a brahmachari dressed in white is running from one place to another. Okay? So, but if you say it at a race course where horses are involved, then it has a different meaning, because obviously white is not a noun and much less can it run. It's not a substantive. It's an adjective. Here it's a lakshana. So what lakshana for what kind of lakshana? A lakshana that doesn't give up itself, but then you have to add something else to make it relevant. And then you put in horse. Why do you say white runs? Because the significant other in the person's life does not approve of them gambling. So they have to have some code words. White runs. Exactly, like this. And so another example may be somebody who's pretending to not drink, be a teetotaler at a party, will say, just bring me some water. But somehow the person already knows water means a special kind of water. Okay, and so that is what it is. Some kind of a clear drink bring, which looks like water. That is the idea. So this is all hidden meaning. This is ajahat lakshana. Then there is jahal lakshana. And the stock example for that is the stock example. What is that? Gangayam ghoshaha. Ghoshaha means a group of, what are they called? Hamlets, huts, belonging to farmers or people who, the boat people, ferry, the ferry people who stay near the river bank. So Gangayam, 7th case, in the Ganga, hamlets, ghoshaha. So this is something which is very funny. In the hamlet, in the water, hamlet means what? That means it's all sunken, they are living in sunken cottages or what? No. So we have to say, so we have to give up the word Ganga in our understanding. This is Jahat Lakshana. We have to give up the word Ganga totally. If the word Ganga is not given up, we will not understand anything at all. The word Ganga is because it's not in the middle of the Ganga river. And so we give up the word Ganga and then we understand what? Ganga Tire. Tire Ghoshah. Not Gangayam Ghoshah. Tire Ghoshah. So therefore, this is this is called Jahal Lakshana, where the Ganga is given up completely. Whereas in the first one, nothing was given up. We needed the word Shweta, important, because somebody is tipping somebody off about a winning horse. And we also need Ashwa, we have to bring it in. Here, Ganga is given up. And then, so therefore, we know Ganga means Tira. So the word Ganga resolves into Tira, and so Ganga Tire Ghoshaha. And then what? Then we have the other kind, Jahad Jahal Lakshana or Bhagat Tyaga Lakshana. Both of them are the same. Jahat, Ajahat. Jahat means giving up, Ajahat, not giving up. And then Jaha Jahal Lakshana means little bit giving up, little bit not giving up. A combination of the first two, of which examples we have seen. It is also called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Bhagasya tyagah tena lakshana. Yam. So therefore, Bhagasya Bhaga means it's a portion. Tyagah, giving up a portion and then retaining a portion. This is called Bhagatyaga. It's also called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Now, what is the example for this? The very interesting example is given. And how does it go? So, in short, it is Soyam Devadattah. Saha, he, and he is that Devadatta. That is this Devadatta, in other words. In fact, we can never use, in fact, the prepositions that and this in the single sentence referring to the same substantive. It makes no sense. If I say that computer is this computer, it doesn't make any sense. What is this? What are you talking about? That window is this window. That means something that is remote. Tat desha kala vishishta dwara, that door. And then this door means it should be close to me. Etat desha kala vishishta dwara. This door means it is qualified by this right here, right now, available. Whereas that is far away, remote. So that and this is never used in the same sentence. Except in the case of in a special situation. Like what? Let's say there were 3 friends. One of them, of course, we know, Devadatta. And then in Sanskrit, when you need one fellow, you take the name Devadatta. If you need 2 fellows, Somadatta. If you need 3, Yajnadatta. So, Devadatta, Yajnadatta, Somadatta are the English Tom, Dick and Harry, like that, common names. And so like this, here, these 3 were very great friends, let us say. And they went to college together. After that, somehow, Devadatta lost touch. They'd lost touch with Devadatta. The other 2, Yajna and Somu for short, they went back to their village and then they started families and then they had jobs, everything, and they kept in touch. Devadatta, nobody knew where this person went. Then after a while, many years later, 25 years later, there was a Swami that came to town. And the Swami came to town, and then, of course, after a while of having a job, getting married, raising children, the Swami starts to look very good and attractive, because by this time there are so many challenges in life that one needs some insights. And before, nobody would have even looked at the Swami. What is that? Because at that time it's all about me. So the Swami doesn't come into the picture. And so later on, okay, let's go here. Some Bhagavad Gita, some new Swami is just rolled into town. Let us see what this Swami has to offer. And then what? So Yajna and Somu went and sat, and they just absolutely loved the discourse. Wonderful it was. But somehow, Somu was not never terribly bright, but Yajna somehow felt something is familiar about this Swami. Where have I not never heard the name? And what is this? Something is slightly familiar. What is this? And then he went and stood in the prasad line. And as the prasad was being, he had some time to observe him. And the Swami did not look like his long lost friend at all. And the friend who had dropped out and, now we know, had gone to an ashram, had not kept in touch with anybody or anything. And then, and of course, wearing orange, big beard, and then didn't look anything like his friend, yeah, unrecognizable. But then he had some time in the prasad line as he approached the Swami to receive the prasad. Then by the time it was his turn, he said, "Hey, you know who this is?" He turned to his Somu friend. Yajna turned to Somi and said, "You know who this is? Do you know?" "No, I don't know. It is Swamiji." "No, no, no. It is not. This person here is nothing but our Devadatta. Do you know? Do you remember Devadatta?" "Yes, I remember Devadatta." Do you know who this is?" "This is that Devadatta who we loved, who was the naughtiest of all, who used to get us into trouble." And then what did the Swami say? "Shh, don't, don't, don't out me in public. I have worked so hard to have this persona of someone, someone new and somebody, unfamiliar, all these things." And so like this. So here, this Devadatta is really that Devadatta. A lot of things, even though it may be a amusing story, but it is so profound for our purposes to illustrate Jahal Lakshana. It is extremely, it's so nuanced. Because first of all, see, in this sentence, this Devadatta is that Devadatta. And what is this Devadatta? Etad Desha Kala Vishishta Devadatta. Mainly referring to the Upadhi changes. He didn't have a beard, now he has a mustache and a beard. He wasn't wearing orange, now he's wearing orange. 25 years ago he was not wearing glasses, but the eyes have aged, now he's wearing glasses. So this is all Upadhistha changes. Right? Then, if you say that Devadatta, that is also Upadhi based. Tat Deshakala Upadhi Vishishta or Avachinna. Avachinna means confined by that particular Upadhi Devadatta. The naughty young man who was fond of movies, who would, what should I say, play true want and not attend college classes once in a while, but was very brilliant at the same time. That Devadatta is this Devadatta. So when this statement is made, what is the person who is saying this sentence doing actually? The person is giving up a few things. Giving up Tat Desha Kala Vishishta. That Desha, that Kala, 25 years ago is gone. That time is gone. Whatever happened in that time, college thing is gone. And then whatever the Pinda called Devadatta, how it looked at that time, the personality of Devadatta at that time is given up. But what is retained? Devadatta is retained. And then it's the whole, conjecture, not conjecture, the conclusion that Devadatta is this Devadatta will not be complete unless and until we also remove Etat Deshakala Vishishta. So the Visheshanas surrounding Devadatta right now, orange clad, very respectable, very knowledgeable, scholarly, has studied the Vedas, is a great pravakta. Pravakta means a teacher, a great teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. All that you give up. From this Devadatta, you give up all that. What is retained? The Purusha called Devadatta. The personality goes. Only the person is retained. This is just so fantastic. And that is exactly how Bhagatyaga Lakshana operates in the words Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Anantam operates a little differently, we'll see that. But for now, this is what we have to see. In Satyam and Jnanam, same thing is, the word meaning is retained, just like Devadatta is retained. But the Desha and Kala's connotations around Satyam are given up. Satyam means finite, given up. Finitude is given up. And then it is Jada is given up in Jnanam. Jadatvam is given up in Jnanam. And then the finitude is given up. And then only the bhava meanings, the abstract meanings are retained. Asadhatu, us, to be. That's why, that is why Panini, in classifying the words, the first verb to be classified was Bhuvadaya Dhatavaha. Bhuvadaya Dhatavaha. Bhu Adi. Bhuva Adi. This is what, this is the first dhatu. Before anything, the dhatu patha begins with Bhu, Sattayam. It's a nod to Brahman. He was a great scholar, great Vedantin also. So nod to Brahman, because if that Satta is there, Satta means existence. The existence, if that existence is there, all the existences depend upon which existence? That is what is being talked about here. That's why Bhu Sattayam is the first dhatu. That which is not going anywhere else, that which is always here, ever present. And the next one comes Va, to blow. Then only, if something is stationary, then only things can blow, things can move, things can go there, because that Adhishthana is called Bhu. It derives from this alone, Sat. And this Sat alone is. And this, so therefore, this is how the Bhagatyaga Lakshana operates. And so when you say this Devadatta is that Devadatta, that is given up, this is given up, Devadatta is retained. There is a continuity which Yajna is describing to his friend Somu. This is our friend. The continuity is what's being talked about. And here again, when we say Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, the Satta is retained. Satta means the existence is retained, and all the other things, time-bound existence, place-bound existence is given up. Jna, avabodhane, in the sense of knowing, that is retained, but the rest of it is given up. Knower given up, known, object of knowledge given up, the knower, the status of the knower given up, pramana, the means of knowledge given up. It is just, so what is Satyam Jnanam? A knowing being. That's what it is. We have to say being. Why? Because it is a conscious entity, a knowing being. In fact, not just Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, but all, all of the Mahavakyas operate with this Bhagatyaga Lakshana only. All of the Mahavakyas. Even the Mahavakya we have studied in the Chandogya Upanishad, Tattvam Asi. So from Tat, the word Tat, which means Jagat Karanam Brahma, that Kartritvam is gone, is taken away, and that Jagat, which is the Jagat means universe. So that universe, which is the projected, for that power of projecting is taken away. Everything is taken away. All we have is awareness. We don't have projector, we don't have projected. So all we have is awareness. Again, Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Awareness is kept. And that consciousness is kept. that conscious awareness, which is in an embodied being called Ishvara, which is all knowing, almighty, ever present, and all pervasive, all those are given up. All those are given up. All that is there is awareness, existence, a knowing being. That's all there is. And then coming to the jiva side, same thing. The complaints are the first one to be given up. Oh, I'm not good enough. Why me? What's wrong with me? I need to be doing something. All that is given up. I need to accomplish more. I need to be famous. All that is given up. Complaints are given up. And then I am this much alone, given up. I have to be better. All these things are given up. I am in a finite body, mind, sense complex. That finitude is given up. Body is given up. Mind is given up. Then the one who knows all this, that is the one that is retained. Who is that? A knowing being. That's what it is. That's how one can say with ease, you are nothing but Jagat Karanam Brahma. You are nothing but Ishvara. Oh, so you reduce Ishvara. There is no reduction. Reduction means, that there we are talking of things that are all real. The attributes ascribed to Ishvara are superimposed upon that awareness which is free of all superimpositions. That's why I keep my hands get tired of saying as though, these air quotes all the time. Everything is in air quotes. So you cannot say anything. You cannot say Brahman has projected. There is no projection. As though projection. And so there is no reduction. If there is no projection, then how can there be a reduction? There is no reduction. It simply is. And it happens to be you. And this is exactly how to understand this. This is what is Bhagatyaga Lakshana. And when you understand this Bhagatyaga Lakshana, then the next two very technical points about refuting this objection, about why Anantata, the last word. So, see, first we have Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So, Satyam and Jnanam are the Lakshana Shabdas. These two are the Lakshana. Then what is Anantam? Anantam is the one that negates so many things from Satyam and Jnanam. And only retaining, therefore, so Ananta, the word Ananta is like a person with a vacuum cleaner, hoovers up all the things that are extraneous to Satyam and Jnanam. Knower gone, knowing, what is that? The means of knowing gone, object of knowledge gone, subject, knower gone, everything gone. And from Sat, again the finitude gone. And so therefore, the word Ananta is not operating in the same way as Satyam and Jnanam. And we will see that tomorrow. It's a very wonderful discussion. But before that, we had to look at this whole thing. And have this particularly very clear, how the Jahajjaha Lakshana or Bhagatyaga Lakshana operates. So here some questions are there. What is that? Aprameyatva of Brahman. When Shankara refutes the Shunyavadis, he often uses the word logic. Brahman is not Shunya because this Jagat cannot exist without a substratum. No, it's not Anumana. It's not an inference. Inference means, it sounds like, yes, I can see why it sounds like Anumana, but it doesn't, it is not Anumana. Because, you see, the argument here is this, that the things that are moving in the Jagat, this is not Anumana, it is Yukti. Shruti Anukula Yukti. Yukti means it looks logical, but it is in keeping with the Shruti. We do deploy Yukti. We do use Yukti. Yukti means logic. We use some logic. Because, of course, Vedanta appeals to people who are sensible and logical. Otherwise, it doesn't appeal at all. It's exciting when, because the mind is in what should I say, is working. It's trying to figure out. It's better than a mystery novel. It's wonderful. It's really nice. It's trying to understand. And then then it finally understands. It has to relax. It has to just be taught. And then so when it is taught, how do you teach this? That which doesn't have which cannot be described, which cannot be compared to anything else, so, and which cannot be inferred. How do you teach it? You use certain things. You use certain things that are observed in the world. And that is what is this logic. So, Shruti Anukula Yukti. But the logic has to be deployed very, very carefully, because if it is Ananukula, if it is not going along with the teachings, then it would become a Dushta Pramana. It would be a fallacious logic, and it would be a fallacious means of knowledge. So, therefore, very carefully you can say, Jagat means what? Everything that is in motion. For there to be movement, something has to be still. That movement is based on stillness. This is observed. Drishyate loke. It is observed in the world. It is the laws of physics. So that all this. So therefore, so it is not, he's not using Anumana at all. He's making you understand so that the Shraddha develops. And then at this point you say, Asti Kaschit, something is there. Asti Kinchit, something is there. Now I have to understand this Kinchit as myself. This something, so he's not inferring the existence of Brahman, because it's got the Swarupa of being Swatas Siddha Swarupatvat, because it is Swatas Siddha. It is self-evident, so it doesn't need to be inferred. Inference has no place here, but he is using logic to help ourselves to extend this logic to see that yes, this makes sense. In the world, we observe that everything that is moving has to have something stationary based upon which it is based. Similarly, so also in the Jagat, we can say that. And so then that helps the person go to a level of understanding which they would not have without this example. It is more of a udaharana, it is more of a drishtanta, and it is more of a yukti rather than anumana pramana. Okay. Om
Thank you, Swami.
Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi